Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Capital G here with Koma Cosmos Serpent. I've been dying to get some videos out of our Kaldheim commanders, and I have two such decks ready. So I've got this one, and you'll see what the next one is after. It's been tough to find time to record, but here we are. And if my voice sounds a little soft, it's because I do not want to wake up my daughter. She has been, let's just say, we won't say sleep deprived, but not wanting to sleep. She wants to deprive herself of sleep. So, I'm not going to allow that tonight. Also, we're not going to allow people to kill our Koma. Very, very powerful commander. Had a heck of a showing on a recent episode of Game Nights, let me tell you. So, Koma itself. This 7 mana Serpent, double blue, double green, and 3 for the 6/6, cannot be countered. And at the beginning of each upkeep, we get to create a 3/3 Koma's Coil token. And the cool thing about this, every upkeep, that's your upkeep and each of your opponent's upkeeps. And we can sacrifice a Serpent to either tap down a permanent and its activated abilities may not be activated this turn, or the Serpent gains indestructible until end of turn. Koma herself, gains indestructible until end of turn. So very, very hard to remove. It does need a little bit more protection, and it needs a little bit of help in getting through for damage. But yeah, we're going to beat down on this deck. It's going to be turning creatures sideways and knocking life totals to 0. Let's see how we can go about that with, again, some defensive cards such as Champion's Helm to give Koma +2/+2. And because Koma, of course, is legendary, it would have hexproof. It's only 1 mana to equip this piece of equipment. The Haunted Cloak. Equipped creature has Vigilance, Trample, and Haste. Why not just run over some smaller creatures? Icebind Pillar. Yes, we are, in fact, running lots and lots of snow mana because we're on Kaldheim. So why not run this snow artifact that can tap down an artifact or creature for the low cost of any snow mana? Lightning Greaves to keep our commander safe. Soul Ring for the mana. Swiftfoot Boots again to keep our commander safe. And the Weathered Runestone. Figure this is an interesting little piece of tech to have since we're not going to be casting cards from our graveyard at all. So why should our opponents be allowed to? Moving on to some creatures with the Amphin Mutineer. When this enters the battlefield, we get to exile a non-salamander creature, and that creature's controller creates a 4/3 salamander warrior. Also has Encore, so the first time it comes in, it'll get one creature, turn it into a small salamander. If we have to use the Encore, hey, we get 3 of them. Probably the only card in our deck that nombos with the Runestone that we had just looked over, but totally worth having. Arixmethes is here, excellent piece of ramp, 4 mana for this particular land that eventually becomes a 12/12 beater. Still run Arixmethes as one of my commanders, in fact, so I know the power of this card. It is fantastic. Coiling Oracle to either get a free land off the top or a free card draw. Well, free, 2 mana, but still dirt cheap. Dawnglade Regent. We're going to be running this one, 7 mana for an 8/8. We become the Monarch, and as long as we're the Monarch, our permanents have hexproof. Glenara, Caller of Wildwood. Recently did a deck tech with her as a co-commander. Perfect fit here as well, since we do have some sea monsters and larger spells, so we'll be casting spells with mana cost 6 or greater, so this will ramp us, just can draw some cards. Icebreaker Kraken. Hey, we're running the Snowlands, so it'll be easy to reduce this cost to 6 mana or even less, depending on the stage of the game that we're at. Emoti, Celebrant of Bounty. Yes, 5 costs for this particular creature with Cascade, but then when we get to our big spells, our 6 and 7 mana spells, they're going to have Cascade as well. Kira's Follower for untapping a permanent. It can untap a creature or it can untap a land, whatever we need. Masked Vandal. The cool thing about this piece is that we're not recurring creatures from our graveyard. So this can exile a creature from our graveyard to exile an artifact or enchantment an opponent controls. And being a changeling, that means it is a Serpent, so we can sacrifice this to protect Koma if need be. Mercfiend Liege. Anthems are green creatures, anthems are blue creatures. Koma's Serpents are blue, only blue, so they would only get +1/+1. Koma would get +2/+2, of course. And the fact that we get to untap all of our creatures during each other player's untap step means we can swing out, untap, and we can block against any crackback. Rime Tender, untap another snow permanent. Okay, we've got a few of those. Running both Shakashima of 1,000 Faces and Shakashima the Imposter, because these can copy Koma. And as we saw in the Game Nights episode, copies of Koma getting two Serpents a turn, that is absolutely fantastic, absolutely backbreaking for our opponents. Scourge of Flates can help return some of our opponent's smaller creatures back to their hand. In this case, with toughness less than the number of islands we control. Sculptor of Winter untaps the Snowland, so this will help us ramp. Shipbreaker Kraken. 6/6 for 6 mana. But if we ever activate the Monstrosity, we can tap down up to 4 creatures that may not untap as long as we control the Shipbreaker Kraken. We're running a lot of ramp, so we can easily get to that Monstrosity. Slinvoda. Easy to kick. Yeah, it's 8 mana for this 8/8 Leviathan. But with the kicker, brings the cost up to 10, but we get to return all creatures to their owner's hands except for Merfolk, Krakens, Leviathans, Octopuses, and Serpents. We've got a lot of sea monsters in this deck as it turns out, so perfect. Spark Double, same as Shakashima. Copy our commander ideally with this. Spring Bloom Druid rounds out our creatures. It's a hero on a creature, sacrifice land, go get 2 basics, put them onto the battlefield tapped. Enchantments, and how is this as a spicy piece of card draw? Elemental Bond. Whenever a creature power 3 or greater enters the battlefield under our control, draw a card. Turns out the Koma's Coils are 3 power. So every upkeep, draw a card. Yes, please. Kiribes the Sea God gives us an 8/8 Kraken with hexproof. Or we could tap all non-land permanents and opponent controls. They won't untap during their controller's next untap step. That's Chapter 2. And Chapter 3, gain control of target permanent and opponent controls. So 7 mana to get all 3 of these things over consecutive turns. Sure thing. Merit Lage's Slumber. Haven't heard a lot of talk around this card as of yet, which is interesting. This Modern Horizons Snow Enchantment. Whenever this or another snow permanent, i.e. our lands and some of our other permanents, enter the battlefield, we get to scry 1. And at the beginning of our upkeep, if we happen to have 10 or more snow permanents, we get a 20/20 Merit Lage. It's a black avatar token with flying and indestructible. Running the Rune of Flight to enchant a permanent and give it flying. And the Rune of Might to give an enchanted creature +1/+1 and trample. Koma is the ideal target for these, of course. And either way, they do draw us a card when we cast them. Moving on to some instants. Broken Wings is an instant that has impressed me. Destroy an artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying. So 3 mana to have such a wide variety of targets. Sure. Disallow, again, 3 mana for a wide variety of targets. In this case, a spell, an activated ability, or a triggered ability. Running the Fierce Guardianship. Again, Koma costs 7, so if somebody does have a board wipe that can take out Koma right away, I'd rather we be able to defend it, so it's probably worth the money to run it if you've got it. Graven Lore, this is one that's been talked about a bunch on various podcasts. 5 mana snow instant where you get to scry X, where X is the amount of snow mana I use to cast the spell, then we draw 3 cards. So we'll be typically scrying anywhere from 3 to 5 cards before even drawing, and we can cast this at instant speed. Very, very sweet in my opinion. Grove Spiral to draw a card and maybe put a land from our hand onto the battlefield. Harrow, sack a land, go get 2 basics. Lazotep Plating. This card I've seen steal games online, and it's definitely stolen games for me and some of my other decks. So an amazing fit here. For 2 mana instant speed, give yourself and all your permanents hexproof until the end of turn. And you can amass an army. It's either adding a +1/+1 counter to one of your shapeshifters, or you just get a 0/0 zombie army token with a 1/1 counter. Either way, that's a lot of value for 2 mana. It's a personal favorite for more of this spark. Narset's Reversal, after seeing basically the ceiling of what this can do in game nights, I can't not run it. This card is amazing. Copy an instant or sorcery spell, then return it to its owner's hand. We choose new targets for the copy. Straight up negate. Not worried so much about the creatures personally that our opponents may cast, more about the non-creature spells, so negate is in. Return of the Wild Speaker. Our commander is a 6/6, and we have some bigger fish as well. Or once we have a bunch of Koma's Coils, give them all +3/+3 and turn sideways. Return to Nature. Destroys an artifact or an enchantment, or we can exile a card from a graveyard. Bye bye, World Gorger. Roiling Regrowth. Again, sack land, go get 2. Saw It Coming. The sort of Yu-Gi-Oh counter spell, as it were. So we can counter it like a normal spell for 3 mana, or we can pay 2, exile it, and then on any future turn, it only costs 2 mana to counter any spell. The Simic Charm is here. Target creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn, or permanents you control gain hexproof, so excellent defensive abilities as well. Or return a creature to its owner's hand. Swan Song counters an enchantment, instant, or sorcery spell for 1 blue mana. They get a 2/2 bird token. Who cares? Lands running 38, including the Bark Channel Pathway. They finished the Pathway cycle in Kaldheim, so all 10 possible combinations of Pathway are available to us. Breeding Pool, of course, Forest Island. So, of course, running our Shock. Command Tower. Faceless Heaven. One of the first cards in our lands to take advantage of snow. It itself is a snow land that taps for colorless, or we can pay 3 snow to turn this into a 4/3 creature with vigilance, and has all creature types until end of turn. The Jaramira Lake. These lands are kind of wonky, I find. I think their activations are a little expensive, but it's a nice little, shall we say, back pocket piece of token creation in this instance. So it's 5 mana and sacrifice this land to create a token that's a copy of a creature we control with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. We can only do this at sorcery speed, but that's fine. It's a nice little piece of backyard tech. Rejuvenating Springs coming in from Commander Legends. Rhinewood Falls are common dual type snowland. Why not? Shimmerdrift Vale, I like this one. Choose whatever colored mana I can tap for, and it's a snowland. Yes, it comes in tapped, that's fine. Running 17 snow-covered forests and 11 snow-covered islands. Reason we're running so many forests, of course, is so we can ramp more easily. And also tossed in a waterlogged grove that we can eventually sack off the draw card if we need to. And Yavimaya Coast, the Painland as well, is here for solid mana fixing. Sorceries, of course, Balagad Recovery, one of the all-stars from Zendikar Rising. Baral's Expertise. Return up to 3 artifacts or creatures to their owner's hand, and we get to cast the spell with converted mana cost 4 or less without paying its mana cost. Very sweet. Blessing of Frost, one of my favorite snow payoffs in these colors. So we get to distribute X 1/1 counters amongst any number of creatures we control, where X is the amount of snow spent to cast the spell. Then we get to draw a card for each creature we control with power 4 or greater. So let's just say we happen to have, say, 4 Koma's Coils. 4 mana, give 4 Koma's Coils +1/+1 and draw a card for each. Plus Koma itself, of course, and any other big fish. So buffs up the board a little bit and draws us a bunch of cards for 4 mana. Excellent payoff for snow. Cultivate. Go get 2 basics, one in the hand, one on the field. Curse of the Swine. This is one of our big board wipes, of course. Exile X creatures. Each creature exiled this way is replaced with a 2/2 green boar token. Explore. We may play an additional land this turn, draw a card, simple as that. Into the North. Search your library for a snow land card and put it into play tapped. Any snow land, then shuffle our library. Price on this one I'm pretty sure has skyrocketed ever since it was revealed that Kaldheim had snow. Kodama's Reach, again, go get 2 basics. Rampant Growth goes just for the 1 basic. Ranger's Path, 2 forest cards. That includes our Snow Forest Island that we saw earlier. Raven Form from Kaldheim, excellent piece of removal. Exiles an artifact or creature. Very rare to see blue be able to remove an artifact. So I put this almost in the same league as Feed the Swarm, which was a way for black to exile enchantments. Raven Form gives us a way to exile an opponent's artifact. Turns into a 1/1 blue bird, but that's okay. Regrowth, return target card from our graveyard to our hand, because why not? Rishkar's Expertise, draw cards equal to the greatest power amongst creatures we control, and cast the spell with CMC 5 or less for free. 3 visits, search our library for a forest, put it onto the battlefield, 2 mana, and freshly reprinted. Whelming Wave, huge payoff for us here. Returns all creatures to the owner's hands except for krakens, leviathans, octopuses, and serpents. So once we have a bunch of coils on the board, cast Whelming Wave, the door is open for us to swing out. And that is my take on Koma. Hope you all like that. Again, really nasty piece of work, this one, I think. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun to pilot. A challenge to pilot, but a lot of fun to pilot. And on that, I'm going to wish you all a good night, and we'll see you all for the next one. Bye for now.